Yo, what's going on, everybody? AA Brian here. Welcome back to PanNerdia, and welcome back to another Better Call Saul Season 5 breakdown video. Tonight, we're breaking down Episode 7 of Season 5, titled JMM. You know, the acronym for Justice Matters Most, or Just Make Money. The two themes of this episode. But, oh gosh, this episode is really funny. So, last week we ended with Kim essentially proposing to Jimmy with a marriage deal, and it is a deal. When I mean a deal, they're literally talking about it like it is the legal binding document that a marriage, is, and essentially they're just doing it so if Jimmy ever gets in trouble, God forbid Kim does, but if Jimmy ever does, they never have to testify in court against each other, which is a really great setup. But man, they really treat it like legally. They do it in the courthouse. I mean, even the judge there, who's essentially reading them the whole spiel. He's like asking, "Do you have rings?" And they're like, "No rings." And he's like, "Okie dokie." And it's so corny and hokey, and they just chuckle at it, and it's totally what they do, right? Regardless, though, they're still happy with that, which is pretty cool. We then get a little Saul Nacho interaction, because during all that, he had a very busy morning. Saul was getting called by Nacho relentlessly. So, of course, he, calls him back as soon as he's done with his morning duties. But when Nacho calls Saul, you see that? He talks about how he's going to be representing Lalo, or Jorge Guzman, his new alias, as he's in court for murder and other charges, of course, related to Travel Wire and the Fred guy who got murdered, unfortunately, and everything along those lines. So it's Saul's new client, and he's essentially denied bond because all the crimes he's committed, or being put on trial for, they're pretty heavy, and just being put out on bonds probably not going to fly. And according to Saul, no judge would ever let it fly, unless, of course, you're Saul and you can pull something out of your hat. He is the magic man after all. But we get the scene that you guys may have saw earlier in the week, actually, a little sneak peek scene where essentially Kim and Rich and Paige are trying to coax over Kevin after the whole ordeal, where he essentially just says, "Kim, well, you dropped the ball," and which is totally a Kevin thing to say. Regardless, they end up walking out. Kim and Rich do, trying to apologize, and Rich kind of Kevin kind of just seems like he's done with it. But of course, Kim is like, I can't leave this open-ended. This is something like a theme she's having this season. She really can't leave these things open-ended. She needs that closure, right? So she turns around. I'm assuming her and Rich talk about it on their way in, because when she enters, she's essentially like this. She lays it out to where you think it's going to be her almost revealing, the whole Jimmy thing. But, of course, she wouldn't do that. It's her essentially putting Kevin on blast and pointing out that, they had all this advice, legal advice and counsel that they were giving him countless times, and he just kept denying it. He kept wanting to do it his way, and ultimately it's his decision, but that's why they're there, is to advise him, and they need to heed his counsel, especially since they are his lawyers, the fancy ones that he says. So she kind of turned it back on him, and I think he likes that kind of bite, and was like, "All right, well, I'll see you Thursday." It's like, okay, Kevin, jeez Louise. But Kim thought she could do a lot better. Man, Kim. But it was a total slap in the face to Kevin, that's for sure. But justice does matter most here. We're going to get right into the brass tacks. While Saul and Lalo were trying to figure something out, because Lalo was like, no, we're not doing it any way you're saying, because I got to get out on bond. You got to make it happen. But he does ask him about the JMM that's on his briefcase, and that's the title of the episode, in fact. Yeah, it's pretty sweet, man. Little funny quirks, and how Saul's slowly getting tied into the cartel, and eventually with Gus. It's really cool how this episode kind of really starts tying that together, because he's had his ties with Mike, right? He's had his run-ins with Nacho, but now they're really all kind of colliding and getting tangled further and further, to the point where Saul's not going to be able to get free. He'll get pulled to the depths, to the black hole itself, Heisenberg. Man, oh man, oh man. But again, Saul's saying no deal on the bond, and well, that's when Lalo kind of offers to Saul, well, you want to be our guy? You want to be the lawyer for the cartel? You know, change that motto from justice matters most to just make money? I think that does hit a part of Saul, though. Somewhere deep, Saul is grinning about that. So keep a watch for it, right? Whether he's scared or not, Jimmy might be scared out of his wits, but Saul is a little intrigued. But we get some more Mike. He's back in good relations with his granddaughter and his daughter-in-law. You know, he's over there tucking her in. He's talking to the daughter-in-law about his son Maddie again, and you know, it all comes down to acceptance, really. Mike's finally accepted who he is. You know, he's gonna go ahead and play with the cards he was dealt, and I think after just kind of constantly being pushed into these situations, and instead of running from them or trying to be angry at them, he just accepted about, like, this is who I am, this is my place, I might as well just fit in like a puzzle piece. So very interesting. But yeah, it's pretty funny though. We get a scene of them finally getting home, Jimmy and Kim that is, after their long day, and well, they just go straight to Bangtown. But during that, Saul, of course, has to stop because, well, one of the deals with the marriage, the legal binding documents that they signed, one of the big things that they agreed on was that Jimmy would tell Kim things that he's doing, essentially, but only if it's something that he doesn't want to tell her, right? So if he doesn't want to tell her that, she's like, just tell me. You know, if it's something you feel like you want to hide from me, just tell me, and we'll just deal with it once you tell me, right? Basically like saying, I don't care what you do, I just want to know. But then also to protect them from being put on trial against each other, which is interesting. Either way, Kim's ultimately like, you know what, I'm glad you told me that you're working with the cartel right now, and that you're scared about essentially being the cartel's lawyer. So it's cool of Kim, but what that also does is it starts bringing her into that web. She's still caught up in that. She's caught in the swirling abyss that is Saul's life right now, and how it's slowly going over to the dark side of the Heisenverse, and she's getting pulled in. Whether she thinks she's doing it by her own parameters, she's still getting pulled in, and she's gonna get pulled into some dark shit now, since Saul is, and she's married to him. So again, I never saw that coming. I don't know if did Saul ever mention that he was married in Breaking Bad. Did he mention a past wife? I can't remember if he did. If you guys know that, sound off in the comments, would you? But essentially it's to the point where, you know, Saul even starts mentioning about the money that could be possible if he was a lawyer for the cartel. So I said that it's seated in his brain now, in the Saul part of Jimmy, and he's really smiling at that. You know, he's intrigued. But we then get a Mike and Nacho's scene meeting up because, again, Nacho's got to report to Mike at this point about what Lalo's doing. Well, Lalo actually has connections on the inside. He's able to get a phone and still make riffraff happen, call Nacho and etc. from within the slammer. And so, of course, Nacho tells Mike that. But first, since Lalo is arrested, Nacho wants answers from Mike on, protecting his father. And ultimately, since Lalo is still making calls from prison, Mike doesn't think that's good enough to consider Lalo being out of the picture, because Lalo ordered Nacho to burn down one of the Los Pollos Hermanos. Mike's on the call and got to tell Gus. Then we get a really cool little Easter egg, Breaking Bad Easter egg here with the head of Imaginal Electric and the company that owns all the different fast food chains and all that. We get to see, what's his name again? Peter, right? The German feller who AED'd heart, shocked himself to death in Breaking Bad, finding out that Gus died and all the things were seized. So, yeah, we get to see him, and we get to see him in his anxiety in full, as well as a visit from Lydia. They're all at the hotel after this meeting they had at Maginot, where, of course, it seemed, just fresh on the surface. Everything's cool. Gus introduced some new spice fries, some spice curly fries over for the Los Pollos Hermanos. But then later at night, you see the underground, the dark web, so to speak, of Maginot, how he's connected with Gus and then totally in on Gus's drug ring and how the lab's getting built and all this. But that's truly when Peter's anxiety shines. And, we get to see how Gus in action and how he calms a close friend down. Though you do see some hints of manipulation. Gus could have just been manipulating Peter this whole time. Yeah, they may have been friends at some point, but I think Gus gets past that point to where, he, friend or foe, he'll use you to his greatest, cause. He'll still use you like a piece in the game, in the puzzle. And the way he kind of coaxed Peter down from freaking out was a good sign of that, for sure. Just methodical Gus, man. Methodical Gus all day. So we get Kim and Jimmy then, get ready in the morning. Typical scene with them before they start their day. Very happy, starting it the right way. And as they're heading out, Jimmy's still staying back, getting ready, finishing some things up. He gets a call from Mike in a great scene where he's like making juice in his juicer and being like, "Oh, Mike, oh yeah, I'm in a tunnel. Sorry, can't hear you." And just totally like played him a fool and closed the phone. And of course, during all that, the doors get knocked on as well. And he answers it, and it's Mike at the door. And he's just like, "All right, man, we got to talk." So essentially, Mike knows that Saul is representing Jorge, aka Lalo, and essentially needs him to get him out on bail, on bond. So, of course, Saul's like, "Well, how are we going to do that?" And Mike's, of course, like, "I have connections to him with a very interested personnel that I work for. We have already, essentially, this is what you need to get him out on bond, because this is what we did to get him into jail." So it's really cool to see Mike and Saul finally working together again. They haven't really since like the first season. Then they kind of just missed each other on the off seasons. So now, since we're in season 5, the penultimate season, to see them finally kind of getting in cahoots, and how Saul will ultimately switch over from the Salamancas to Gustavo Fring's side will be an interesting little state of affairs there, because he will switch over soon, right? That, or he'll just of course, he never meets Gus. He mentions that even in Breaking Bad, but he's going to be hearing the inner workings of that of the Los Pollos Hermanos operation here, I think, very soon. But Yeah. Where am I at here? 15 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna kind of make sure I chop that out too. Woo. Okay. So essentially what they do now is set up the whole burning down of so then essentially what they do next is all right, so they got to keep up with the charade. Gus needs to make it seem like Lalo is winning, especially to the cartel, right? Because he wants Lalo to get pushed back, the Salamancas to get pushed back. So he allows Nacho to destroy a Los Pollos Hermanos location and ultimately burn it down. But without his help, or with his help, I should say, Gus helps set up a nice little chicken trap that ultimately slides into the boiling fryer, while Nacho destroys everything within the restaurant. They both walk out, and a nice explosion to them leaving. And well, Gus seems rather pissed, even though he had to set up that elaborate hoax. It's gonna be better in his cause, because Lalo now seems like, at least seems to Lalo that things are going his way. And well, they're all kind of just burying themselves deeper, though, with this constant back and forth. It's going to have to end soon. And I think that's ultimately why they want Lalo out on bond. So I think they can finally kill him once and for all, or get him completely out of the picture. But what was really cool during that scene of Gus setting up the chicken trap and Nacho breaking down the place, they played this real eerie Native American music that with chants that really just set the tone to the destruction. But the intensity behind the scene, and of course with the location this is filmed in, it was really well done. And as always, I appreciate many things about this show, but the artistic vision of the Heisenbergs is so then of course another way to kind of put some more fire under the case here and get Lalo out on bond. We get a scene where Saul, of course, is kind of representing Lalo at this point and presents the whole side factor of Dave Clark, the private investigator that Mike was playing. Well, to get him in there to mention his name, throw a stick in the road for the defense, because at that point they didn't know that the only witness was essentially coaxed by a private investigator to say that they indeed saw Lalo or Jorge as a witness, or they witnessed it. So, or putting him as a suspect, the prime suspect, that is. So that really helped, and it also helped Lalo get put on bond, but with a $7 million cash bailout, which is steep. But Lalo says, not too bad, but you're gonna have to be the guy to get it. And so there you go. Saul has to go retrieve $7 million cash from the Salamancas, I'm assuming below the border, and then bring it back through. Good luck on that. But we get a really great shot. I'm sure you guys saw it in the previews last week of Saul peeping around the corner as he's looking at the family of Fred leaving, because he's ultimately feeling grimy with what he's doing, because he knows the family's sad, but he's stuck in this weird position where he's starting to be like a little monster, right? And they do a great job where he's peeking over this wall and his reflection on this marble wall, and he just looks like a creepy, like golem, right? And it's totally kind of what he's turning into. And I think it's not only to be, JMM, Justice Matters Most, but to be JMM, Just Make Money. Little money gremlin, Saul Goodman. But this is when Howard steps in, and with his Namaste presence, And essentially he's like, you look, Jimmy, I know you're the one doing this stuff. You can just, say no. I have obviously upset you. And it ultimately does crack Saul. He finally kind of explodes on Howard, saying, you were the one who killed my brother. You're just a little microbacterium in your own little bubble, and I am a guy that walks in men's clothing, and just totally just getting on a soapbox and expressing it all coming out at once. Dropping another F-bomb on AMC, which is great. They've got like one almost every episode this season, which is really good. It's really shown that cable TV can drop F-bombs, okay? But the acting from Bob Odenkirk here was fantastic, man. I mean, he really showed anger. Either way, he is enraged at this point. And again, it's brilliant acting by Bob Odenkirk as Howard storms off and the episode ends. All right. Very interesting. We only got 3 episodes left. Saul is obviously put in a very hard place. He's getting stressed. He's put in this position where he's trying to play multiple games at once. And this juggling act for this clown of a man that we all love, it's going to be tumbling down real soon. All right. It's going to be coming to an end. But, not before he gets his name plastered all over the city of Albuquerque. All over enough to get Heisenberg's attention. But next week on Better Call Saul, again, I'm not showing previews anymore. I'll just show some pictures here real quick. We have more Saul and Lalo, as Lalo, I'm assuming, explains them how to get the money down under the, across the border, the $7 million cash, where we actually get to see the operation. We get to see all these bill counters, as well as guys in like a chop shop cleaning out cars with like blood and like, essentially murder evidence out of a vehicle. I'm sure also in there to pack vehicles full of drugs and things like that, but even cash. So according to Lalo, Saul's the guy. And of course we got Kim coming in the picture again, and her wondering what's going on. How much Jimmy's gonna tell her, who knows? Because at a certain point, Jimmy might start playing that game too, to where now, since he knows he's got her on his hook in terms of the cartel, maybe he doesn't have to tell her everything about it. Like the fact that he's got to go get $7 million from below the border. Either way, guys, it was a great episode. Like I said, 3 episodes left this season. How's it going to end? And what's going to happen in season 6? You guys let me know down below. And like this video if you enjoyed. I'll be back next week for some more reviews. In the meantime, you guys take it easy, wash your hands, and I'll see you later. Peace out.